Second game in this best of 3 between ABCD and Bomba Anarchica. We are going to be hopping into the pit. Buckle yourselves in, folks. I've got a feeling this is not going to be fast. This is not a 3v3 map that tends to lead to quick endings.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Like, is someone going to trade boom, or are they just going to be aggressive? I do feel like the China-French-English combo is the more aggressive combination, so expecting to see aggression from their side. And you did mention earlier the wood lines being so far away does give options for aggression. So
what I just don't understand what like there isn't any consistency behind how these TCs spawn. You're seeing this, right? Like why is Cyan Blue so far away from a wood line? As an English player, dude. Oh man, I like this is, by the way, this is not on Petit or anything. This is just the nature of AOE4's like map code generation. But I just
and what's unfortunate is that I've had some situations where I felt like, well, a restart might be in order, but you can't pause the game and discuss it and just randomly resigning to force it. You can't, So we haven't really ever seen a restart, or at least I have never had one, because you kind of just have to roll with what you get. I think like in most handbooks, there's like this rule where it says, okay, if the map is unfair, you can restart in the first 2 minutes. But it's just like, it's so hard to judge as a player. Like, is this actually unfair? And like, how do you just randomly resign? I never know how to handle that situation.
It's like, it's complicated because it's a game of hidden information, right? Like if we had it, like you don't know what your opponent's spawn is, and you'd be like, yo, I have really bad deer spawn. Do you? Yeah. Right? And like, I mean, at that situation, like you don't necessarily guarantee a restart, even if they say yes. But now they know you have a really bad deer spawn, and maybe you sieve that needs deer.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
It's just it's a flawed thing. You need like a third party, but even then, that third party, especially the current like observing system, would be on a 5-minute delay. So and then this is another reason why I really want lobbies, like proper lobbies for AOE4 where the casters are in the lobbies, because literally there's no way to have an admin pause the game for them and say, yo. But then you just couldn't. You'd be like, yo, blah blah is far away from the wood line. Do you guys agree to restart? And they're just like, Lamau, no. And then they just get into their VoIPs like, so we're gonna rush Cyan Blue here because they don't have wood.
Yeah, and like you usually have plenty of things to do in this game, so you're not really feeling like, okay, I'm just gonna write a book here about how my spawn is bad. So yeah, you just suck it up and you play with it, what you get.
Definitely. I mean, and that's before even bringing up the point we don't even have a pause function. So.
We have a look at Teal here. I think he went to Stone, which is pretty.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Yeah. So the English player went to Stone rather than just going longbows. So. Playing more into the eco route.
Does this feel like a reaction to the map though? Because I feel like if you want to go lombos, that initial wood line isn't very big, right? So you wouldn't get much bang for buck. Whereas now he'll be able to drop a second TC on the backwood spawn.
I think you overestimate the players. Like we're not smart enough to adapt to a map. He just had in mind in this game, okay, I'm gonna make a second TC, and that's what he's going for.
Why are you gonna sell him out like that? They won game 1, Artie.
I don't mean him. I just mean players in general. Like it's not like the wood is 2 steps further. I'm gonna go 2 TC now. Nah, I don't believe that. I don't buy that.
You gotta give him benefit of the doubt. The alternative is just saying everyone's dumb, which is not a nice way to go, Artie. Okay. How would you feel if I cast your games and said that you were just dumb?
I would say go for it. I mean, you would be correct most of the times.
Oh, come on. Don't sell yourself short like that. Oh, man. We're all just filthy animals at the end of the day. And, well, I mean, honestly, the more I look at that Northern spawn, the more I think it's filthy. Like, it's... You know what I mentioned about the Teal player being far away from a wood line is, like... The reason I highlight it so much is if you compare the central player on the North team, he's really close to the wood line. I mean, honestly, who do I blame for this? I don't think this map was Bidlin's design, but...
Who do you feel like blaming for?
I usually just blame everything on Bidlin. I think it's a safe way to go.
Alright, then just go for that, I think. Yeah.
Screw you, Bedlam. All right, anyway, let's focus on this build actually from the HRA play, because we mentioned the English one's going multi-TC. Looks like Sniper's going to do the same, so it is going to be that expected build where you drop a second TC on the wood line so you're secure as the HRE player.
Yeah, because he's adapting to the map, he decided to make a TC at the wood line now. I wonder if the opposite player got enough stone. I guess he did. Because he, like, I was wondering if he pulled off because of the knight or whether... But I think he's dropping the TC, so... All good.
Yeah, so it'll be fine in this situation. Has got the initial spearman out. Even actually had Sniper invest in a few spears as well. Sometimes we see that at the HRE player, but I feel like it's more like frequent when you're close, right? Like he wouldn't have done this if the Abbasid player was on the other flank.
Is he dropping the TC? So maybe
he's holding for the moment. He definitely got enough stone, I think. If we check the Ralia. There it is.
It's fine.
Okay, so they're going to settle for the berries. They don't feel like they need to stretch for the wood yet. Oh,
Well,
so he could drop a third TC at the northeastern berry, right? And then still get the wood when he needs it.
yeah, and he's not under that much pressure. Only the knights, and they got spears, and like the English player is not going for longbows as well. So I think he feels pretty safe right now.
Probably feel even safer when the French player just drops off a healthy 750 food for you. Unfortunately, micro for the scout there.
That's always a nice donation, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. This is a blind donation. So red.
Don't pull off.
Yeah, no, just do it.
No.
Oh no, the panic. The panic.
The hesitation, yeah.
Oh, I've seen this so many times. I was talking about players like the amount of times where like, look, if you just commit, you'll lose less, and you'll also not be idling. So it's not just that you'll lose less in terms of villagers dying; it's that you'll lose less in terms of missing economy. Huh.
Yeah, I think even with the spears, you could just charge at the longbow there. I mean, it's 2 longbows, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just split off the pikes in 2 groups, 1 at the longbows, 1 at the knights, and just build that thing.
Oh, are they actually just
early,
going full aggression here?
Yeah, I was going to mention this as well. Early siege engineering, and yeah, I mean, I think we have 1 China player just spamming Chukanu, and then I'm not sure if Orange is doing the same thing.
And the Chiganu will be incredibly effective because anything that your opponents can build right now are unarmored units, unless of course Sniper wants to invest in feudal age men at arms, which feels like insanity in the current meta as an HRE player.
I mean, Chukanu they're so good in any age, any time of the game. They're you just get so many of them, and you know, with the rapid firing, they do a lot of damage.
It's the fact that damage can't be reduced to 0 that makes them so absurd, right? So even heavily armored units, like it's still going to be free damage. So you know, let's say you're building Chuganu against knights, well, you're still going to do 3 times the damage that an archer would do against those knights.
Exactly, and if you have, you know, archers especially in very big numbers, it's so hard to get on top of them, and you know, just hit and run. They can kill any unit basically. I mean,
they eventually can even kill buildings. I've seen people get to like 100 Chuganu and it just turns into its own battering ram. It's pretty absurd when you watch 100 Chuganu do 300 damage per round of attack.
I don't think they're targeting the wrong player here, because you know, the emergency repairs make such a big difference here.
Yeah.
Like he can just, you know, he can try to kill these rams. So there's a cool trick you can do for those people that don't know. Let's say he selects those red vills that are walking around over there. You right-click the tree that's behind the ram, and then you press G and then you press D, and then they come out at the other side, so you can just spawn them next to the ram. And that way, you know, you can just throw torch, you press G, they go back into TC, and they press D and they throw torch, etc. And
okay.
Yeah, I don't think I would just defend this DC. He's kind of giving it up, it looks like. But I think with emergency repairs and then the vills going in and out of the DC, it means that the units can't come close. They're just gonna all die. But yeah, he's just completely sacrificing it, I guess.
What?
Yeah,
didn't we see this in the last game as well? It was only an outpost last time, but it almost felt, I don't know if there's a gentleman's agreement to just not use emergency repairs, but there's a pattern emerging here.
Well, I mean, like he already pulled the vills, so like the TC was gonna go down after the repairs anyway, so it's it's not that bad to hold it for like your stable here or something. But I'm mostly just surprised at the fact that he pulled the Veils. I definitely would have went for the defense there.
Yeah. Maybe just feeling a little bit of pressure potentially here, but now they're finally going to react. A lot of troops are moving across. Even Shugenu coming in from the orange player. Looks like it's a fight that they can take as well. Spear wrap around the backside. Shugenu being outnumbered. The Lombos are going to stand their ground, but Horsemen now gaining full access. However, Polenta with the counterattack into the Shugenu will push them out of the equation. And now it's just a matter of the Lombos trying to find a way to hold against Horsemen. A difficult thing to ask of them. Looks like it is going to be a sizably respectable and effective defense coming out from the Northern team.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of see the weakness of Pikes in these 3v3 games where they're kind of just dying everywhere. And, you know, it's so good to be making cavalry in these games because the cav just ends up going on top of the bows.
And the panic palings on the exit from Enigma. He's like, I'll just drop these in the wrong direction. It means he loses everything. I think the other kind of knock-on kind of catalyst effect we're going to see here is just Horsemen now dictating the flow, right? And if you think about the comps we've been seeing coming out from the Southern team, like it was slow static comp that was meant to kind of end the game. Only the French player was building some of this dynamic.
Yeah, and I think this is the you know, the clear downside of being aggressive on a 3v3 map is just the walking time. You know, you just get outnumbered so much because of that. You know, let's say you make 10 longbows, none of those would have been in those battle, but like let's say you're constantly producing them.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have arrived to the battle yet.
Oh man, a few villagers getting picked apart as well. And something to keep in mind is like, you know, yes, there is an argument that they were in the aggressive position, so they've done some damage, they forced a response, but now with an army of this size, the Northern team can return the favor. They don't have to go home and do nothing. They can now find a way to punish the team they just beat in the fight.
I think actually going home and doing nothing is pretty good here.
Really?
Which may sound, yeah, that may sound weird, but in a game like this, like your enemy is now under pressure to, you know, they have to catch up in army size, so they have to produce a lot, and then, you know, forcing them to make that investment into units. Like you're kind of just chilling, like pressuring them to make those, and in the meantime you can go castle aids or whatever instead of having this happen where you get retaliated.
Okay.
So I think sometimes it can be pretty strong to just kind of, you know, just posture, you just put your army outside their base, make sure they feel the need to reinvest into army, and then you can just attack up and, you know, you get the map, you get the relics, you get everything, and just kind of win that way.
I think the important detail to make that decision is scouting vision, right? Like if you can see ahead of time they're building the army, great, but otherwise you kind of have to go check. Otherwise they could just be kind of doing that one step ahead thing we talk about, where it's like, oh, there's what I should do and there's what I'm going to do. And unless you have information, which AOE4 is a game of information, it's hard to blindly make that choice.
I think it's not that hard because it's, like, let's say you were the aggressive team, you went in for this push and your army got cleaned up. You're not just thinking to yourself like, who cares? Let's just H up now. Like you're just gonna reproduce that army to try and defend yourself now. It's just kind of the flow of the game. So I do think, as the orange, yellow, and red team, you could kind of just blindly assume that they're gonna make that army. You don't even really have to see it, I think.
Do you think it's like one of those situations where scouts can disrupt that thought process, right? Like let's say you're the players who just lost their army. You build a scout and you see their armies heading back. You're like, oh, actually, guys, we don't need to build the army. We can be greedy to recover here because they're already being greedy.
Yeah, I mean, having the full information of a scout is, I mean, that's definitely what you want. But so I come from AOE3, and in AOE3 your scouting is pretty limited because your scouting units usually just end up dying. Like in AOE4 you can just put your scout, and you know it will never die if you pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So I'm used to playing with limited information where you just kind of have to assume a lot. So I'm more of like someone that assumes things rather than actually knowing it.
And that sometimes works out, Artie. Sometimes it's a facepalm moment, though, right? Let's be honest here.
Yeah, we got our fair share of both.
Exactly, you know, like it's the 50-50. Like you said, you like to be quite an all-in player. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think like the interesting part to me is how in a lot of these team games, we don't necessarily see people regularly rebuild scouts, considering how key that information is. And if you think about like one scout, yes, a bigger map, but there's a lot more opportunities to find vital info because there's 3 players instead of 1.
Yeah, but you can't produce scouts from a TC, because if you do that, then you have
That's
to
true.
sacrifice a Vil.
But we're in a game where I think like 3 of the players, at least on each side.
They have stables, yeah.
Exactly, right? It's kind of wacky to look and see the only player who has a scout is Liralia, and I'm pretty sure that's because they didn't lose their scout at the beginning.
Why was he running away with his army there? I would have just used my army to fight. But...
Well, yeah, you're talking about the green player here. And by army, do you mean villagers?
Yeah, the Vils.
How dare
well,
you,
this wall,
he wow.
He definitely wants that wall up, that's for sure.
You know what it was? Polenta saw the issues that Mima Velena had in game 1 with trying to wall. He's like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to have those same issues.
So actually, I do feel like the top team, they after they had that great fight in their favor, they've been doing some horseman raids, but besides that, they did, like I said, just mentioned to go H3 and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is, I definitely like this. I think it's a better way to get an advantage, and I think the China player here is extremely far ahead in this game. Yeah,
and that's the thing I like, is that they committed to raids, but they didn't take the Chiganu army in, because that's 100% null in play. And sure, you built like 20, 30 Chiganu early on as the Chinese player, but whoopie frickin' doodah. The cool thing about Chiganu is they come around from being one of the most powerful units in Feudal to being one of the most powerful units in Imperial.
Yeah, and still having his army alive to tech up, rather than having to make an entire new army.
Exactly.
I mean, who's gonna counter H3's Chiganu? In H2, like you're just not going to be able to.
Yeah, and then of course by the time you catch up, we could be talking about H4 Chiganu, because Chinese really are that quick. Which, by the way, like I don't know what your take is on them. I think like Chiganu Imp Age are just absurdly busted.
I've been disgusted with China for a very long time.
That's true. There's lots of things.
Ever since the latest patch, like all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, China's overpowered," and I was like, "Well, I've been saying this for like a year." Like I just always hated them.
It's like, well, you thought people would have kind of sniffed out they were kind of a little bit busted by the amount of Barbican Rush games you get in competitive play, where you'd open up and say, "Yeah, this guy's gonna just drop a keep next to his opponent and win."
Well, what's so good about China is the flexibility. So
Yeah.
the H2, like at the very beginning. I might be mistaken, but I think Choganu weren't even exist. Like it wasn't even a unit, right? Didn't exist back then, I think.
I could have sworn they did exist, but no one built them. Was it maybe that they were in a different age? Because they did switch a lot of things to do with dynasties, right? For example, you used to have to wait until you had Song to get villages.
I think at the very least they've had like a very significant overhaul at some point then, because they were extremely weak at the very start of the game, and I felt like, oh, that now China made sense as a Civ to me, where it's like, okay, there were these late game gods, but they were weak and feudal. And I think most Civs have these things, right? Like, for example, English is like the classic example of like, okay, strong and feudal because of the longbows, and they have like this power gap in the castle where they're weaker, and then Imperial they're stronger again.
Yeah.
And China, to me, was like, okay, they're weak in H2, but they're strong in late game. So now that they're strong in feudal as well, they kind of just can do everything, and that's it's so hard to play against because they're just too flexible to really have a counter to, I think.
Yeah, I think they used to cost an extra 40 food, but the flip side is they used to have more health as well. So Chiganu felt like a later game unit than an early game, and a lot of people kind of looked at them and they're like, well, it's low damage. I'm up against armored units in the late game. What's really the point in this? But honestly, for me, like Chiganu and Imperial Age, the thing that makes them absurd is with if you get the correct tech up, the one that allows them to heal and get increased attack speed, they turn into your front line as well as your damage, which is insane.
Yeah, and they're cheap, and late game people often start spamming like crossbows and stuff, which means that Choganu are actually pretty good there. Yeah, I don't know. I just dislike the Civ, to be honest. I have a hard time even
suck
talking
it
about
up,
them.
because they make up a third of this game, all right? You're going to be seeing a lot of them in this fight. Big clash underway here. March in. Liralia is going to focus on the outpost, trying to get rid of that attack speed buff for the men-at-arms and the Lombos. Lombos are being wrapped on the backside. It's going to be a big threatening force coming in of Spears, a unit that should be countered by Lombos, but as long as it distracts them, they're not dealing with the real front line. And we can see what the real front line is here. It's actually Yeti. Front and back, the Chugenu are going to shred everything. The Swarm will be successful. And Team Cell himself here are in big risk. Bomba Anarchica are being tripled up in the military pop cap, and this is about to turn into a flood through.
Yeah, that was an amazing flank with the spears. Like, how can you get so much value with spears in a full archery fight? That was insane. I really enjoyed that.
And the crazy part, like, we usually go, oh yeah, it's the Abasa player. No, that was the HRE player, right? So it wasn't even the idea that more spears were attacking quicker. It's just the Lombos freak out, their glass cannons, they have to run away. They run away slowly, and love the fact that Lorali had torched down the outpost, so they couldn't fight here. They didn't have the attack speed aura to justify it.
Yeah, and as Vodka's pointing out, he had to 8-up with the White Tower, and you usually do want that extra TC, and look at Green in this position. I feel like he's just very far behind in this game now.
I don't have much faith when I see a 1 TC. Oh, sorry, 2 TC. I think
it looks so barren.
It does. Yeah. He did at least build a second town center, but I mean, he's got 4 knights and how much military production? I want to say like maybe no more than 3 buildings. Oh god. And there's a big deficit to make up right now. Like we said, you know, look at the military pop cap, 67 to 190. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Yeti just says, cover me guys, I'm going to tech up. Because I'm basically pop capped this stage, right? If you think about his eco and look at his military count, he could just afford to back off, get the elite Chuganu, and then come in like a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, you definitely have to take some time sometimes, and instead of just mindlessly spamming more units, you gotta you know, get yourself in a better position first. And I think for the top team, like, if there was ever a moment to add trade, I feel like it would be now. It feels like the rest of this game they're gonna play on this side of the map, and you know, adding traders here would just such a good. Oh well, there's the market.
Only one. He hasn't started
he's
yet.
Definitely thinking. He's thinking about it for sure. And this would be the perfect moment.
I thought if anyone would think about being the bastard player, but you know, Yeti's economy has to be so dominant right now, and STBs is going to bait in the Lancers, and I mean, just look at these lads, turn them into pincushions. So many shots coming out from the Chuganu. It's not going to insta-burst down the Lancers, but will slowly whittle away at them. So back off will occur for the moment, as this is only 2 players from the Northern team interacting in this area, because it looks like there are still raids going on from the other contingents, the cavalry elements of the Northern team.
Yeah, and the Southern team is really being gold starved here, I think. It's pretty hard to tell on the minimap, but I feel like those 2 big gold mines in the south are like, you know, their main gold that they have remaining. And I think, you know, they're just not really able to get their gold whatsoever at the moment.
No, I mean, and these fights, like, I honestly, I don't feel like I'm seeing them take any good fights at all. Then again, when your villagers have to participate, it's probably not the best of fights to begin with. I know you feel different about that, Artie, but there's not enough to defend the motherland here, and it feels like the Chuganu still threatening in the center. You know, everyone's on guard here, so it means the horsemen get to raid for free.
Yeah, and you know, Green, I feel like he's completely cut off from his team here. He's, you know, how are they gonna defend this? Even Imperial behind this for China. I think I feel like this game is heading to a close pretty soon.
I thought they might have just called GG the moment the Imperial came out, because I think that's an insurmountable difference. The fact that the military pop cap, the Chinese player, is more or less at his threshold, and the fact that he's about to have elite Chuganu. I think he probably went up the Spirit Ray, right? Which means he now gets the 20 health over 10 seconds, as well as the attack speed buffer. I honestly don't know how you kill that army.
Oh, and I really like the way they handled this. They, except for that emergency repair that probably should have come out, they really handled it well. They accepted the pressure that was coming out. They weren't like overly eager to reply to it that quickly. They just let it happen. And as soon as they cleaned up the army, they didn't, you know, like I was talking about, they weren't just overly eager to start doing their own push now. They didn't go into their own ram rush, but they just took the advantage that they had, and then slowly and surely put the game more and more into their favor like this.
Yeah, it just honestly at this stage it kind of feels like Benny Hills. The main army just isn't fast enough to punish these raids, so instead you get stuck like this. Chasing after something you'll probably never be able to reach. However, the Nestabes finally get to sting in. Sniper decides he wants to take the fight, while Lorali is saying, no. This is not a fight to take. Please leave fast.
Look at this perspective, by the way. Someone is 34 out of 30 population. I mean, it's green, of course, but that's a very painful spot to be in at this point in the game.
Do you know the most painful part is, like, when I look at the neutral trade post, there was only one player who wasn't trying to be a greedy piece of crap and trade in this game on the southern team, and it's probably the one civ that would be most justified in going for that trade. Like, I see two types of blue next to that neutral trade post on the west. I do not see a green. So you can see what their intent was, but they obviously were never able to get it online. Polenta was never in a position to even dream of it.
Oh, so he's sending resources to green to try and rebuild. He just got some wood and stone.
Yeah, there's
But,
the TC.
yeah.
It's on the northern side of the southwest wood line, so he's right close to the neutral trade post. It means that trade dreams are never going to exist. Also means that the static comp that the Chinese player has been building can be involved in the fights now. He doesn't have to worry about the fact that his teammates have gone raiding, as this is just a straight push now.
Yeah, I think green definitely has to write up some sort of peace agreement for 10 minutes here to get some sort of eco back.
Remember the good old days where you didn't have that as an option in RTSs, so you just had to type it to someone and hope that they were honorable? Like, yeah, we're starting this game with 10 minutes of peacetime, right? Yeah, totally. 8 minutes in. Why are you in my base?
I'm sure you were one of the players that was going to show up in the base, weren't you?
Oh, no, I'm a man of my word. Just like Yeti, he said I'll be back, and now he is. With that Spirit Wave buff, just look at the gold glow. Every single one of those units is being healed across 10 seconds, as well as having an attack speed buffer. This is impossible to kill, unless you have 3 Nest of Bees that can insta-snipe him. And, well, Mimo Valena only has 2, and they're gone.
Yeah, this is going to be it, I feel.
Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't waved the white flag yet. They really wanted a quick 2-0 to this, but it genuinely looks like we're going to be heading to Game 3 now. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, exciting first series, going the distance. And I wonder who's going to play the next 2v2. Like, they can't play the same players as the first game, right?
No, I think they have to change one of them, right? So, it's a case of, do you rotate out Mimvalena or do you rotate out Polenta? And then obviously on the other side, do you rotate out Sniper or Yeti?
Right.
But, overall, like, I gotta give a lot of respect the way they played this. I love the fact that Yeti understood that a longer feudal doesn't necessarily hurt him, because when you're a Chinese player, you can just match Chickadoo. Like, in a lot of ways, this game, I feel like it came down to who around the 20-minute mark was going to have more Chickadoo available to them.
Yeah, and I feel like what the aggressive team struggled with is that they tried to replicate playing 2v2 and 3v3. So it's like in 2v2 you want to be aggressive, but in 3v3 the game, like, it's just so different. You want to be more greedy and a bit more passive.
Yeah.
So like that ram rush that they tried, I think it's just always going to fall flat in a 3v3. And